Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast with Bryce Johnson. It's a show that unpacks sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. Enjoy inspiring conversations and thought-provoking interviews. You'll hear stories from people that will inspire, challenge, and encourage you. Now, from the Unpacking It studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, uniting sports fans everywhere, here is Bryce Johnson.
Welcome to the Unpacking It Charlotte podcast. I'm Bryce Johnson. It's the show that unpacks sports, faith, and life. And today's episode is a special rebroadcast of what we did on Super Bowl Saturday. It was a live event that we did here in Charlotte called the Super Saturday Man Breakfast, and we had an absolute blast. Close to 200 guys came out to join us for really a delicious breakfast, and then a really strong panel with former Pittsburgh Steeler Levon Kirkland, current Arizona Cardinals punter Andy Lee, and former New York Giant and USC Gamecock Corey Miller, the pastor of pain. And so these guys were just tremendous, and I wanted to share this event with you. I know everybody couldn't make it. I know a lot of people that may even listen from around the country that were curious about this event. You will be inspired, encouraged, challenged by what this panel had to say. And we'll cut out the part about the Super Bowl, since the Super Bowl has already happened. And so we'll jump right into some of the other topics that we discussed. Of course, football, but then most importantly, we talked about faith and life. And these guys shared about some really major events in their life and some really painful experiences. And they were very vulnerable and honest with the men at this event. And so for you today listening, it's powerful stuff. And so you get kind of an insight into what these guys are all about. Now, for some of you, maybe you've heard the podcasts that we did with Andy, Levon, and Corey. All of those guys joined us on the show last year. And if you missed any of those last year, I encourage you to go check those out. But really, some of the things we discussed at the event, some were the same, some were different as far as some of the topics, but I just encourage you to listen to all of it and be encouraged. And so here we go. The Super Saturday Man Breakfast, a special edition of the Unpacking It Charlotte podcast. And I want to thank our sponsor, Health Market Genius. Do you need health insurance? Get quotes for individual health insurance plans at healthmarketgenius.com. That's healthmarketgenius.com. Know your options. Let's jump right in.
Let's talk a little just football and your career and just some of your connections with the NFL. And so, Levon, I want to start with you. I guess it was maybe 2 weeks ago, we saw the announcement of Bill Cowher going into the Hall of Fame, your former coach. Mm-hmm. What did you think of that, and what did Bill Cowher mean to you in your career?
I was really happy that Bill got in. I thought he deserved to get in. When he first came into the league, I was his first second-round pick. I remember meeting him before I got drafted, and I basically was like, I want to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because this is a young guy. He has a lot of energy. I don't know anything about the NFL and the workings, but I really want to play with this guy. It seemed like we made a connection, and it worked out where I got drafted by the Steelers. So for me, it's great to see him there because he is authentic. The antics and the spitting and all that stuff is real. It really is. And I got a face full of the spit because being an inside linebacker, and he was a linebacker coach, I mean, he was always on us, so I got the wrath of the spit. But, he was truly, to me, one of the first times I saw a coach really be a CEO. he allowed his offensive coordinator to do their thing. He was a defensive guy. He allowed Don Capers and Dick LeBeau to do their thing, and he was able to move the crowd, which means he can motivate you. And on that level, you think that guys don't need to be motivated, but we do. You know, we're still sponges, and we still want to be the very best we can be. And I thought he did a great job of doing that throughout his years. And before we got there, you know, the Steelers were kind of on a, you know, downslope. He actually brought that city and that team back up in the early 90s. So to see him get there, I know he's going to shed a tear. He's a very emotional guy, but I'm very happy. It pleased my heart.
Yeah, it was awesome to see, and I was watching it during halftime. It was cool. Are you surprised that he never went back to coaching, that he stayed on TV?
I was surprised. I was surprised.
Pretty young when he left.
Yeah, he was so young. You think that somebody's going to pay him enough to go back into the game. But he had a great TV gig, and I can get it. And
He's held on
now
to it.
you don't have to worry about one team winning and losing. You basically just have to kind of, you know, analyze the sport and articulate it, and he does a really good job of it. So I was surprised to see him not go back, but I can understand why he didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Andy, you just finished up another season with the Arizona Cardinals, and kind of a fresh start for the Cardinals, new coach, new quarterback, Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. What was the season like? I thought you guys overachieved kind of from expectations going in. What was your takeaway from the year?
I mean, you know, going in, we draft this young, short, little guy, and I'm not making fun of him or anything. That was his biggest rap on him. You knew he could throw the ball. You knew he was athletic. You knew he could do some things. But what could he do in the NFL? And then we have hire Kingsbury, a college coach that's never has any NFL experience. And I couldn't have been more pleased with how, first off, just how Kingsbury, how he led the team, how he wasn't like normally I feel like when you think of college, you think of rah-rah guys, loud, kind of, you know, you dealing with young kids, or not young kids, but I guess compared to me and us up here, you're dealing with young kids in college.
One of the old guys in the league now.
I am now. I am an old guy. But so he just the way his presence and the way he led the team, he was very quiet about it, but he almost seemed nervous at times. It was kind of to start with, and then you could tell he grew. I think he tried to, you know, implement straight college offense at the first of the season, and I think he adapted as the season went to a more of a pro-style offense with his stuff mixed in it, which I think that's where we started to see a lot of success, and Kyler settled down. And I'll be honest with you, I've been around a lot of great quarterbacks. I've been around a lot of great players, but Kyler, the way his actual throwing ability is unbelievable. He's one of the most accurate guys I've ever seen. He's just obviously once he learned how to kind of navigate the pocket, I think, and get some of the holes, because he can't see over, you know, a 6'5" lineman. And once he learned how to move through the pocket and find those holes, I think he really started to flourish. And he's big time drive. He's, you know, he talked. I think the other day he goes, I don't play to be mediocre. I mean, he's very, very self-driven, which is something that's hard to find, I think. And as far as punting goes, I mean, you know, kicked the ball well this year. It went great. But I feel like there's definitely some positivity going into next year, and I plan on playing them. They said they want me back, so you know how that can be sometimes. So hopefully I'll be back there. But it's I think all in all, we ended on a positive note, and I think the future is definitely bright for us. We have Larry's coming back, so obviously one of my good buddies, played college with him, and now I'm back with him in the NFL. So it was an exciting year.
Were you surprised that he is coming back?
No.
Okay, he still loves it?
Yeah, he still has the passion for it. You can tell. I mean, it's amazing to me how well he can still move, like compared to, like, you know, you see some guys that play 10, 11, 12 years, especially as physical as he is. Yeah, I mean, he still moves really well. I mean, I play golf with him a lot. He's still got flexibility and a good turn, and you know, just everything. His hips and knees seem to be fine. I mean, I know he's hurting like anybody, but it's, you know, I think he's been lucky to be healthy, and I think he wants a championship. So I think he's going to keep coming back as long as he can, personally. But
that's cool. On a side note, I was having a conversation with my brother the other day, Is there anybody more likable in sports than Larry Fitzgerald? Like, who doesn't like Larry Fitzgerald? So it's just.
What he puts out there. I know him personally. That's him.
That's cool.
So he is an unbelievable, awesome guy.
We were making the argument that Zion Williamson could be that guy, potentially. I know the Carolina guys don't like to hear that, but maybe Zion could be that guy, just likable. So, how many Panthers fans in the house today? All right. Oh, good crowd of Panthers fans. So, a wild offseason, and Corey's son, Christian Miller, just finished up his rookie season with the team as a linebacker. And so, I know you follow the team closely. There's a lot to talk about, but just kind of overall, what have you thought about the offseason changes? And gosh, we've seen Luke Kuechly retire. Now Olsen's done, new head coach. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. But I like the hire. Of course, let me just say for the record, I really, really enjoyed getting to know and being around Ron Rivera. I think he's an excellent dude and great coach and great for the community here in Charlotte. Definitely hated to see him go, but I understand the business. David Tepper coming in and wanting his own guy, and that guy's Matt Rule, who I have an appreciation for as well. What he did at Temple and turning that program around and going into that crazy environment at Baylor, which not too many coaches would have taken on that task. And so turning that program around, getting to the Sugar Bowl they're just right outside the college football playoffs. So I think he's going to do a great job. Greg and Luke leaving that team. People. Of course, the million-dollar question is Cam Newton, right? So, but I think I read somewhere, heard last night that he says he's going to be back, which I think is great. But we'll see. But I like the team. They got a good mixture of young guys and veterans in the locker room, and you always worry about it, and he knows when you get a college guy that, comes into a pro league and not much experience. I know Matt has 1 year with the Giants as an assistant offensive line coach or something, but from a veteran standpoint, you look at that guy like, okay, because it's not the rah-rah, you don't come in with that. You gotta win the locker room. You gotta win guys and get them to buy into what you're selling, and that's going to be the biggest job. Will they believe what we're bringing? We're bringing a lot of college coaches, and because guys in the league can tell you, like, okay, they're going to look at you weird. Because they make a lot of money. Most of them probably make more than you do. Well, not now. Matt Rule makes a lot of money. But it used to be that way. But I think it's a good fit. I think they're looking to bounce back, and we'll see. You just never know when you look at the history of college coaches coming to the NFL. History says it's not going to work, but that doesn't mean that it won't work.
I'm fired up about it. As a Panthers fan, I love the hire. I think it's exciting, and there's just kind of a restart, freshness surrounding the Panthers right now, which is fun. All right, let's discuss kind of each individual career a little bit, and the question to consider: what was one pivotal moment in your career that, when you look back at your career, that maybe it was a turning point in your career. Maybe it was the point that you realized, man, I'm in the NFL. Maybe it was a key season that is most memorable. What was the most pivotal kind of moment or season in your career? And Levon, if you want to start, if you're ready to roll.
It's always me starting. Let's see. There's probably two that I can recall. One came from Coach Cowher. I played outside backer my whole career, high school and college. And I fancy myself as a rush guy back in those days. They switched me to inside linebacker. I had no clue what I was doing at inside linebacker. It's so much faster. It's coming at you from all angles. So for me, it took a little while to adjust. But the thing that also I had to adjust to was calling the signals. I never did that before. And I never directed or what I call managed a team. And as an inside linebacker, you have to do a lot of that. You have to know the formation. So it's a lot more responsibility than I was used to. I was used to being on one side. It was either coming to me or it was going away. So one day, I got guys like Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd, Rod Wilson's in my huddle. And I am a second-year guy, and I'm looking at all these veterans, and I got to be poised enough to direct them and make the calls. Let me tell you, it was a rough couple of weeks when they gave me the start. But I remember Bill Cowher telling me that, hey, you have to take over the huddle. I'm like, take over the huddle. I got all these veterans on the team. I'm just a newbie. How do I take over the huddle? So basically that philosophy of faking it until you make it kind of went. So I just transformed myself into a leader, and I became a guy that was a little bit, it's kind of out of my character, really. I became more of an alpha, and we had a bunch of alphas on that defense. So it was a little tough, but it actually worked out. And then Super Bowl 30, I would never forget this. It's before we got ready to play the game, and Matt Millen was a former linebacker. I think he won 5 Super Bowls. And he got word to me that he thought that I was the dark horse on that team, that I was a guy that could make a difference. He said, but, you're seeing the right things, but you're just not trusting your eyes. And he told me before the game, trust your eyes. And for some reason, that clicked to me. That, bam, light bulb. And I just trust everything I saw. And I had a really good game. We ended up losing the game, which was the bummer about it. But I ended up really taking that trust your eyes with everything. Just believing in what you're seeing and having confidence to go that direction. So I would say my second year when Coach Cowher told me to take control, and then I think this was my 5th year, we go to the Super Bowl, and Matt Millen tells me to trust my eyes. And the next 2 years, I end up being a Pro Bowler. I end up being the NFL linebacker of the year from the alumni, and making All-Pro again, and also winning MVP for the Steelers. So just trusting my eyes really helped my confidence in playing the game.
Gosh, that's awesome. Man, I think back when I was probably, 10, 11, 12, playing Sega Genesis, and it was like, it was either Madden or Primetime, and you were ranked 99. You were awesome on that game.
You sure that, that was my number. I don't know if I was ranked 99. I was a different linebacker,
You and Rob Woodson were awesome.
Yeah, I was just a big guy that could move a little bit, and I probably shouldn't have, as far as measurables is concerned, I probably shouldn't have been playing linebacker. I was a big guy. Most big guys my size were playing defensive lineman, but for some reason, man, it was, God's blessing that I was able to stay back and play linebacker and do as well as I did. But, I was 270, 280, sometimes 290 trying to play linebacker. And
wow.
It worked out. For some reason, it did work out.
That's awesome. Corey, why don't you jump in?
Corey, don't tell him my real weight, okay?
I won't. Probably, let's see, 1986 in Lamar, South Carolina. We playing a game. Corey Miller, two of the state's best linebackers, versus Levon Kirkland.
Oh, my gosh.
All the coaches in the stands, Danny Ford, Joe Morrison, you name it. And we had a great game. Of course, I won a few times. I've beaten Levon because we didn't do much in South Carolina. But that was fun. We played against each other.
Yeah. Basketball, too.
In high school. Mm-hmm. Two-way schools. And by the way, there were 3 of us. The other guy would be Ed McDaniel for Batesburg Leesville High School, 2A school, 3 linebackers.
Right.
I posted something. I think we played probably close to 38, 40 years combined.
Yeah.
In the NFL, 3 guys from South Carolina from 2A schools. So that's a great blessing from the Lord right there. But, no, I think, getting to New York drafted in the 6th round, and they just won the Super Bowl, and going in the locker room and, you talk about these alphas. Imagine coming from South Carolina, now you're there and you're next to Lawrence Taylor. It's like all this, what do, you know what I mean? So playing with him and learning from him, the guy just taught me so much. Watch him, I'm telling you, the guy that can rush the quarterback is unbelievable, the stuff that he could do. And he didn't work out, he wouldn't work out, he wouldn't watch film. Go to sleep during film sessions. So that's probably not the way I need to do things. I'm not there yet. But I think the biggest turning point for my career was my rookie year playing against Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers. Lawrence goes down, and I come in. And actually, I start that game because he went down against Green Bay towards Achilles. And I start and just got 2 sacks that ball game, and it was a good and bad thing, because good thing that's kind of where I established myself as a starter in the league. But my good friend Carl Banks got cut the next year. That's just part of the league, I kind of took his place. But it was my turning point, learning from that guy, and he taught me a move called a Geritol, and you probably, what is that? So, where you just kind of, you take off real slow, get up the field, you make the tackle, set his feet, and then you speed around the corner with a rip. And so I just never forget, we were playing the Redskins, and he told me, this is what you need to do. We were playing against the Hogs, and Joe Jacoby was the tackle. And I told you he was the ugliest dude in all of football. That's what we all said. He was nasty, mean. But I got the little Geritol move and got my first NFL sack against. Awesome. So that was one of the moments I always remember.
So cool. Andy, you're still playing, but you've played 15 years? You just finished your 16th. Wow. So when you look back, what's a pivotal moment for you?
I mean, there's one time. So my rookie year, bombed the ball offside of my foot, bombed the ball. So that's kind of my first year. Second year is a little bit better, but finished my last game of the season with a 14-yard punt. Ooh. So of my second year. So that's what the front office is looking at. So my first 2 years, if you looked at my career stats, my first 2 years are way different than every other year. So I knew going in the offseason they were, it was kind of like, am I still going to be here? They're going to get rid of me. They're still going to give me a chance. They saw a lot of talent in me, but I kind of was just inconsistent, which isn't good when you're a punter or kicker or anything. So they bring in Tom Ruin, which he was a 15, 16-year guy at that time, to compete with me in camp. So I was like, okay, and it was the GMs, like they were roommates in college, like all this stuff. So I found out later he really did this to push me, but at the time I thought like I was done. So it was the most stressful camp I've ever had. Mike Nolan was our coach at the time, and he came up to me and he was like, because that punt was out of our end zone too, the 14-yarder, by the way. We were 4 and 12 that year, so it doesn't. I mean, it wasn't like we were like doing anything with it, but it really didn't hurt, So it was. He called me into his office. He's like, if we have a punt out of the back of the end zone, anytime during the preseason, you're taking it. I was like, all right. He goes, even if it's because I was going to still play the first half. The other guy was going to play the second half. So he goes, even if it's the last punt of the game, this is weird that this happened. So you'll see in a second. We're in a 4th preseason game. I'm beating him out overall, but he's doing a good job. He's a 16-year guy. The other team punts the ball like down to like somewhere inside the 5-yard line. 2 minutes left in the game. In the 4th quarter, I haven't punted since the 2nd quarter. He comes up and he says, if we punt, you got this. We end up punting. So I go back there, 4th preseason game, knowing if I mishit this ball, I'm probably going to get cut.
Pressure.
If I hit a good ball, I'm probably going to make the team. So, hit a good ball, it worked out, everything, but that to me, and I remember sitting with my wife the next day in the hotel room waiting for them to call to see if I made the team or not, to find out, Joe Nedney was our kicker, to find out that Tom left the night before. They told him I was the guy. They didn't call me until 5 o'clock the next day.
Oh, man. What was that like?
Miserable. It's like, especially being young, and like now it wouldn't be as big of a deal because obviously, it's been awesome. If whenever it goes, it goes. But at that time, it was my life. It was my livelihood, but from that point on, that's when I started. That kind of, I guess, changed my perspective on life. It changed my perspective on the NFL. Like helped me deal with pressure, which I think is something that is a big deal. Like, I'm nervous on a lot of times when I'm out there. My heart's racing at certain times. But if you can still perform through it, that's what matters. If you're not nervous, then I feel like if you're not nervous, you don't care. So now am I nervous every punt? No. But there's probably 10 punts a year that I would rather not be out there, to be honest with you. But it's because if you do a good job, it's kind of like, okay, I've had a good career, so it's kind of like, okay, he did his job. If you do a bad job, it's you're crucified. I mean, so I mean, and everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. So just hope you don't make the mistake in a situation that matters. So
hopefully we'll get the Cardinals winning some games and getting you in some of those big moments, right?
I mean, I'm fine. Honestly, and during a game, it's awesome. I don't like to think about doing that now, personally. No. But it's fun. It's actually fun to go out there when your team needs you to do something and being able to step up and do it. So it's an adrenaline rush, which I think that's what a lot of people, why a lot of people like competition, like things. It gives you that adrenaline rush. It gives you that just the feeling that it's just an awesome feeling to have.
That's cool. And to think about 16 seasons in the NFL, that's awesome. So congratulations on that. That's really cool. When you think about 3.5 is the average for an NFL player, and all these guys had long careers. So really neat. Well, we could talk football all day, and these guys, though, they're much deeper and go beyond football and have deep faiths and have been through a lot personally throughout their stories, and so we want to unpack some of that today. And you talked about pivotal moments in your career. Let's transition to turning points in life, and specifically, if you can share about the turning point in your faith when you recognized your need for Jesus, that you were gonna follow Jesus. What was that turning point? What were some of the pivotal moments that led to that? I don't know who wants to start, but Andy, Levon, you got it?
Yeah, I've been starting all the time.
There you go. Keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just keep doing that.
You're the captain.
That's right.
I think, it's kind of funny. It seems like there's always two things with me. 1996, doing pretty well in the NFL, but something was just tugging at me. My background is my father was a minister, and that's a lot of pressure to be a PK kid back then in those times. I mean, people were really keeping a close eye on you. But I'm an adult at this time, and, it's just one night I just really couldn't go to sleep, and I just remembered that, and it just seems like, God was just telling me to change, calling me to change my life. It wasn't like I was doing anything bad or I wasn't being successful or anything like that. It was just a moment that I felt like I need to take it another notch with my faith. And so that day I really kind of turned my life to God. And it was kind of funny. My father baptized me, but I think he kept me in the water a little longer than he did most people. So I guess he was praying about that situation. And so he just kind of, my mother was really happy, and I'm drowning in the pool there. So that was one point. And then I would have to say probably the point where there was a 4-year period where I lost my oldest brother, my father, and then I lost my wife, and then a year later lost my mother. So, just losses after losses. And I was really, to be honest with you, I was a little upset about losing my father because I felt, and he had Alzheimer's. If you ever had anybody who had Alzheimer's, that's probably the toughest one to deal with because they don't really know who you are. They're not really themselves. You can't have that conversation that me and my father always had. We always had that conversation. So that was tough for me. And then, my wife was dealing with lung cancer, and she passed about maybe a year and a half after my father. I'm just like, woe is me, and this is not really fair or anything like that. But my daughter really kind of taught me, kind of got me out of it through the whole time. She was only like 11 years old, and she wasn't really upset, or she wasn't really crying at the time. And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, And I remembered that night that my wife passed away, and I had to tell my daughter, and she was like, oh gosh, okay, yeah. Like, okay, this girl's a cyborg or a robot? And but the next day she wanted to go to school. And so we took her to school, and she went to school. And my wife got buried in Kentucky, where she's from. And so it's the funeral, and I'm totally a mess, to be honest with you. My wife meant so much to me, and just like you guys who are husbands, you really lean on your wife a lot more than what people may think. You know, they see this football player, this linebacker, but to be honest with you, I leaned on my wife a whole lot. So I didn't have her to lean on. So we're at a funeral, and you know, again, I'm a mess, man. And my little girl hasn't cried one time. Like, what in the world is going on with this girl? And I remember we're in the car, and she's like, you know, I'm like, Kennedy, I mean, like, how you feeling? She's like, you know what, Dad, I just really trust God, and Mommy is just in a better place. I'm just really happy for her. She's in heaven. I'm happy for her. And I was just like, this young lady who's like 11 years old just loses her mother, and she has a perspective that a grown man like myself really doesn't have. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I mean, I just can't wrap my head around this whole thing. And that was probably the second turnabout when my daughter was like, you know, she's in a better place, and she's with God, and she doesn't have to suffer anymore. And that kind of really changed my perspective about my faith and everything. So it was really this little girl who just kind of helped me see it and put it in perspective, because my perspective was, why is all this happening? You know, I lost, you know, my oldest brother, one of my heroes, my father, who was definitely my hero. You know, you lose a wife, you know, in the middle of the night. And for my little girl to just put in perspective, I mean, she went to school and everything. Most kids would have been like, oh, shoot, I can take a break. But she went to school, and, I mean, she really didn't cry. The only time she cried was when I went back up to see my wife again, and then I came back, and you know, she started crying. I'm like, oh wow, she's crying, and I'm like, you know, honey, it's gonna be okay. And she's like, well, I'm not crying for Mommy. I'm crying because you're crying. And I was like, wow. But to end this story, this is kind of a funny thing too at the very end. You can even laugh at a funeral sometimes. We sitting there, and she's like, Daddy. And this is a big minister, and he has a purple suit on, and he's kind of flashy. And he has one of those little cowboy ties. And my little girl looks at me, she's like, Daddy, you know, the minister looked like a big Willy Wonka. And it took everything in my fiber not to just burst out and laugh. It really did. So when she said that, it kind of put things, you know, in perspective. She's like, man, he looks like a big Willy Wonka. And I'm just like, oh, my God. So I would say those are really my turning points, you know, just with my walk with Christ, just understanding that a lot of times we use the word special, you know, somebody's special, but what I realize is that we all have greatness, but being special, I think, is a little overblown, because, you know, things can happen. You can, you know, like Kobe, you know, surprising death. I mean, anybody could be diagnosed with cancer, lose their money. A lot of things can happen. So in that retrospect, we're not special. We just all have God in us. And I think that was a lesson that I had to learn, that, you know, just because you're Levon Kirkland and you're doing all this doesn't exempt you from going through some pains. And that's what we did. And, you know, that's been my turn. And I'm just every day just trying to do the very best I can and walk in the path.
Amen. Thanks for sharing. And Andy, for you, let's talk about kind of the turning point in your faith, and then if you want to transition to a key turning point in your life and family and what you've been through.
Well, I have kind of a turning point in my faith and when my faith was tested. So I'll do the first one kind of quick. So Todd Peterson, I don't know if anybody knows, he was a kicker at Georgia. He played in the NFL, I think, for 12, 13 years. He's a big man of God. So when I was drafted to the 49ers, he was the kicker. So he was a 12-year guy. I was a first-year guy. Grew up in church, kind of got away from it at Pittsburgh. Was still, would have considered myself a Christian still, but kind of, got into, bad mouth, doing things that, in college I probably shouldn't be doing, all that kind of, all the kind of normal stuff, kind of rebel away from my parents in college and, try to live on your own and make bad decisions. And he basically, I was actually engaged to a girl from Pittsburgh. Bad relationship, it just wasn't great. He actually, through the Bible, kind of brought that back into me, ministered to me the whole year, kind of helped me see that. I ended up breaking off that engagement, and he knew I was struggling with that and my relationship and everything, and also my relationship with God. So right before we left on the checkout that you guys know, season's over, you have a meeting, you're gone. It's like you were never even there. It's kind of crazy. He says, I want to pray for you before you leave. And I was like, okay. And he said, and then he prayed that the next girl that I meet, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, to be the woman that God wants me to be. I grew up near Clemson in Westminster, South Carolina, right outside. So my brother was went to Clemson. So I went home after my rookie year, went out one night with him to a bar, Tiger Town. Yes. It was 2 weeks after I got home. I met a girl. She's my wife now. We were both drinking. I mean, it was, not probably the perfect place for God to, give you the woman of your dreams. But I can say without a doubt she brought me back to God through her, because she was amazing. She still is amazing. And she basically keeps me in line. I mean, she is an amazing girl. So I believe that just doesn't happen, I don't think, especially with what I went through and it being pretty much exactly 2 weeks from, it was kind of crazy with that. So that leads me into probably the biggest time my faith was tested, and bear with me if I get emotional, because this week is a really tough week for me and my wife. So on January 27th, 5 years ago, we had a little girl. We have 2 boys right now, which without them, I don't know if we could have made it through without them and with God and everything. It was crazy. But she lived 8 days, passed away on the 4th. So kind of this week from the 27th to the 4th is just not the best in our house. We try to celebrate her on her birthday and try our best on her, on the 4th to do what we can. So I guess when things happened, there was something wrong with her. We don't know exactly. She was born, she swallowed fluid, had to go in the NICU. So my boys never got to meet her. Nobody ever got to meet her because it's flu season this time of year, so nobody's allowed in besides the parents. So it was just, I remember praying, because we thought there's possibly something wrong with her, because she was having problems, fighting, little bit, she had a staph infection, but not like staph that you see in NFL locker room, just staph that's on our skin right now. And she couldn't fight it, and she was having blood transfusions and platelet transfusions and tubes all in and out of her, and it was just, to see your little girl in pain, it's horrible. So I remember praying 5, 6 days, 7 days in, if she's going to be miserable here on earth, just take her. And that was the hardest prayer that I've ever had to pray. But he did. He took her, and I think, I think during that time, it was a mixed emotions. I was mad at God. I was confused. I was about every emotion you have, but also there was love. Which it's hard to love God when you're mad at him at the same time, or it seems like it would be hard, but I don't think it is, because I just don't, it was just, I don't know, it was an awesome thing, because I believe that my girl's not here because it wasn't going to be a great life for her. I don't think she was going to be happy here. I think she would have been miserable here. So we know she's in a better place. I know one day I'm going to get to see her again. Like, one thing that I'm not scared of is, obviously, I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my kids. I don't want to leave my wife. I want to see my kids grow up and hopefully be able to lead them in the right direction. But when I go, I get to see my girl. It is what it is. But it's something that I feel like was the worst thing that's ever happened to us. And I mean, it's been 5 years and it still kills me. I sleep with her baby blanket every night. It's my son bought her like a little stuffed animal. He still sleeps with it every night. It's that she had in her little NICU bed with her. So that was tough. But being on the other side of it, we started Madeline's Fund out of it. So now 3 years ago, we helped our first family. Well, I guess a little over 3 years ago, on December, I think it was 27th. My wife would kill me for not knowing the exact date. But 2016, we helped our first family. So we assist families in the NICU, everyday living expenses, and funerals. In a little over 3 years, we've helped over 700 families. We've done. And one of the biggest things we do is funeral costs, because one thing my wife talked about, because the worst thing, and you probably know this, having your wife and everything, and your parents, to have to call the funeral home and set up all the arrangements and everything, and the cost of it and everything, it's just not any good. So we pay for funerals for families as well. We've done, I know we were at 111. I think of those 700, there's about 113 now. I think we did a couple this past week. So we did about 113 funerals for families, which that's the thing. The thing about it that we thought was, like, what's something that during this time where, like, you're in a complete mess, the one thing you don't want to fight about is money. Like, and being able to, and sometimes it's not always about, like, people, like, going through loss. It's just people can't go to their job, can't work. So we help with gas cards, we help with utilities, we help with, like, everything else for those people. But when they do experience loss, we help with that. So we just wanted everybody to be able to properly memorialize their child that don't, and this is for more people, like, that can't afford, to do this. There's people that can't, like, have a proper funeral because they don't have the money to pay for it. So, I mean, they're not cheap. So, I mean, I think that, so I guess my biggest point is, through the pain that I still feel today and suffer with, I still suffer with, like, why, even though I know why. And I know she's in a better place. It's still tough, but we're able to, her life so short has influenced so many people. And it's not me that's doing it. It's not my wife. I truly believe it's her. So,
Man. Whew. Wow. Thank you for your vulnerability and honesty and sharing just a powerful story. And I know there are guys in this room that can identify with an element of both of your stories and are going through or have gone through something similar. And I hope the encouragement today is that through that, God reveals himself, that God uses people to come alongside us, and that God turns things for good. And to think of the lives that have been impacted through Madeline's Fund is so encouraging to hear. And so encourage guys to check that out, Madeline's Fund, and then be able to support that as well. I always like to be very cautious of time. And so we said, hey, we're going to go till 9:30. So if you do need to go, and if you told your wife, hey, I'm leaving at 9:30, honor that. But we've got a little overtime. So if you're good with overtime, we're gonna keep going because we want to hear from Corey, and he's got a powerful story as well to share. So don't feel bad about leaving. So just want to respect that. And also want to respect your guys' times too. But I know that the Lord's going to speak through Corey, and so in kind of this theme of turning points and pivotal moments in life, and ultimately turning our lives toward Jesus. Corey, why don't you jump in with that?
Yeah, just amazing stories, testimonies. I grew up right down the road, Pageland, South Carolina. That's where I was born and raised. I have 10 brothers and sisters. powerful, strong Christian family, and grew up in the church, and where you had to do Christmas and Easter speeches that I hated. We had a choir, family choir that, Sundays it would be like an all-day affair. It was your church for 3.5 hours, and somebody else's church to go sing, and then somebody else's church, and that panel-sized station wagon. Well, that was me. So I heard about the Lord God and Jesus, growing up all my life. I mean, it was all the way from my grandmother. It was passed down. But when growing up poor and not having things, I always just wanted to make it. It was like, I want to play pro football one day. And I just knew that, whatever sport it was, I was a 2-time All-State basketball player. I got a record holder in track. Whatever sport, I did it all. And God bless me, I was very successful. And so I was like, one day I'm just going to get out of this little town. I'm going to play pro ball. And, I'll tell people, the world sells this dream of money and material things, houses and cars and jewelry. And, man, that's where I'm going to have my success and my peace and my joy. Well, I went to South Carolina, full scholarship, did well there, Defensive Player of the Year, all those things, all conference 2 times. And I finally got drafted by the Giants and had a little bit of money, bought my first Mercedes-Benz from Sterling Sharp, and had my little AMG rims. I was rolling. And I'm in a big country now in the big city of New York, man. I'm there. I'm finally there, and, had success making money, living that dream. And one thing, and I thought I was a Christian, because I grew up in a Christian home. I went to FCA. I did all that stuff. I was always in chapel. I did all those the right things, right? Like, we go to church, or we got the bumper sticker and wear the T-shirt, but don't make you a Christian. So, I did all that, but I was living a lifestyle of immorality and, you name it, I did it. Drunkenness, I did everything I was big and bad enough to do. And I was thinking, man, if I got all this money now and I'm successful, I'm on TV, I'm in New York, playing alongside the greatest linebacker to play the game, life is perfect. And I never really had joy, peace in my heart. Something was just empty. And so what I started doing, that AMG 300 wasn't big enough, so I go to the 400, and then the 500. Now I got to get the 600. I had the cross. Levon, I know what I'm talking about. You see him, and I had the nice little cross with the diamonds, and, man, that wasn't big enough, so I got the bigger cross. I got to get something else bigger. Nothing would satisfy me. I bought a nice house in Columbia, and I thought, the Wildwood, the Drive of Dreams, that's what's going to make me happy. That didn't do it. So I got to get a bigger house. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got this girl. Great wife, my college wasn't good enough. I got to have more women, different color, different sizes. Nothing was fulfilling me. This lie that the world says that if I can obtain and have and get, then that's where true joy and peace come from. Well, I didn't have it. I chased and I chased and I chased. And finally, my chaplain said, Corey, I want you to go hear this guy speak by the name of Pat Kelly. I think he played baseball. He was up in New Jersey. And man, he was speaking, and it was just like the Lord himself was just like, talking to me. And it was just hitting me upside the head, man. It was a 1-2 punch upside the head, everything he was saying. Again, I thought I was a Christian because I grew up in a Christian home. I went to church, FCA. I did all Bible study. I did all that stuff. But I made a decision in 1993 to give my life to the Lord. I knew that God was speaking to me that night, and it took everything for me to go. I had my car in the shop. I was getting a new stereo, and I was like, man, I'm not going up there to hear this dude. Why am I going up there? But I just felt something in my soul. So I accepted Christ in 1993, and it was a roller coaster after that. I still had these things going on in my life. I was cheating on my wife, you name it. I kept doing it, and one day I just said to my chaplain, I said, I don't feel this. I don't feel saved. Why am I keep doing this stuff? I still kept chasing stuff. Well, when I retired, I hurt my neck in practice. Came up, we were doing 7-on-7, what we call thud. I came up and thudded Tyrone Wheatley, running back from Michigan. And, man, everything just went numb, just like that. They sent me off, I was in training camp in SUNY Albany. They sent me to New York Special Hospital to surgery. They were like, looked at, oh, you're great for an 8-9-year linebacker. Your neck looks good. Well, let's just do a little MRI just to be sure. Well, I had some disc issues. Eventually caused me to retire. I had a clothing business downtown, and it was doing great. We were selling customized suits because guys like Levon like those $10,000, $15,000, $25,000 suit packages.
Yeah, you see what I got on right now.
Yes, sweatpants.
You know, so I'm like, man, I'm going to sell to my boy. I'm going to make some money. We doing good. I'm rolling still. And then I had a partner that stole from me. Then I had to sign my name on all these things. Yeah, all the millions of dollars I had was going out the door. I got depressed. I went on tour with my boys. I sat there retired. I went on tour with my boys, Hootie and the Blowfish, Dave Rucker, got some of my best friends. And they was like, come on the road, hang out a couple weeks. I did that. 2 weeks turned into 8 months. I'm on a rock and roll tour. Why? Because I'm searching, because I'm still empty. And then I got so depressed. I'll never forget this in 2003. I'm in Charleston after the tour was over, and I'm still out drinking, I'm partying, I'm running women. And it's so dark in my life. And I had a Glock 40 caliber gun sitting right there. And I heard these voices that I now know is the devil, the enemy, the adversary. He's like that roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, consume, telling me to kill myself. Your career's done. Your hope is done. Everything is done. Your friends are gone. Those people that was your boys that were always like to roll with you when you had the limo, when you had the Dom Perignon and all this stuff, they gone. Your wife gone. Your family gone. Why you need to live? Kill yourself. I sat there, tears running down my face with that Glock 40. And then I remember something at 7 years old that my great-grandmother said to me and my mom. She said, Ethel, talking about mother, she rocked in that rocking chair. She said, God's got plans for that little boy's life. She said, Ethel, God's going to use that little boy. And at that moment, I heard my grandmother say that, who's been dead. I heard her voice. I dropped the gun. I got a U-Haul the next day. I moved back to Columbia. I tried to reconcile with my wife. She wanted nothing to do with me. But God said, but this moment on, I want to teach you. You play for the New York Giants, but I want to teach you what it means to be a giant for Christ. You know, that you can lose, you can be down under, you can be depressed, but I know this man, that Jesus, who paid the price for it all. And now I became a Christian that day. I rededicated my life back to Jesus, and since 2003, I've been preaching this gospel, telling men, telling athletes what a real giant is. See, real giant is not about the bumper sticker on the back of your car. Real giant is not going to church and going and singing the choir, doing Easter speeches. A real giant for the Lord is about having a true relationship with him, making him Lord, making him master over your life. And I know today that this enemy that was trying to kill me, he comes only to steal, kill, and to destroy. But Jesus came that we may have life and have it to the full. And that's the good news. That's the good news that I know today. And now I'm preaching and I'm traveling, I'm talking to men and athletes, and this is the message that I share. It's about making him Lord. You know, and it's about knowing who God says you are, because, you know, we get in these ruts in life, which I did. But I had to understand that there was a king on the inside of me. Before I was formed in Ethel Miller's womb, God said he knew me, and he ordained me to preach this gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. That's why the enemy wanted to destroy me. That's why he wanted to take me out, and that's why he wanted to take many of you out. Because he knows that there's a king on the inside of you. You know, this year's been tough for me. As I finish this up, I lost my mother. I lost my father in 3 months of last year, 2019. The two people that were my rock. The two people that when everybody else turned on me, they were always right there. The man that I saw praying day after day, night after night, who died from Alzheimer's or dementia. You're right, Levon, that's hard to watch. But that same father, the one thing that he always knew was Jesus. In his final hours, you can talk about God, and he sang this song, I'm running for my life. If my sister starts singing that, he remembered every word. Matter of fact, my mom unexpectedly died first on July the 4th, right down the road here at the hospice place. Unexpectedly called me. And one morning I said, Corey, will you pray for me? Crying, my mother, man, that'll rip your heart out. I'm in pain in my stomach. It turned out she had all these, some kind of ulcers, and it was bad, man. It was like clots, and And so I prayed, God, heal her, but God began to have me pray for the whole family. The Spirit of God led me there, but by the way, she felt better. Next morning, my sister calls. I'm taking Mom in the hospital. I drive up here. The doctor says, she's got 24 hours, 48 hours at most. Mama gone. My dad sang at the funeral. I preached my mother's funeral, something I never thought I had to do. 3 months later, my dad, gone. The two people that were my rock. But one thing I remember, man, is what they left me. They weren't able to leave me a big house and a bank account, of money or material things. They left me an inheritance of Jesus Christ and knowing who he is. I don't worry anymore. I don't worry anymore because I do know where they are. And I take the message of my dad. I told my dad as he died, he stayed there till I got home. It was amazing. He stayed there, and then that nurse says, he's waiting on somebody. My sister says he's waiting on Corey. I was there for my grandmother passing. I was there for my mother's passing. I was there for my father on the bedside. And they told me, God is passing this baton for you to be the spiritual leader of your family. And so I take that song as I preach my father's funeral. He said, run. He said, run for your life. And I never knew what that meant when he was. But he was saying, man, God has given us a life that's marked by him, our Heavenly Father, and we are to run it like Paul said. We got to run with endurance. We got to run this race that's marked for you and run it for Jesus. Because it's the only thing. I don't care if you hear anything else I say today, because I really don't care about the Super Bowl or football. I care about Jesus, and I care about your heart, and I care about where will you spend eternity. You got to run for your life like never before. We're living in a time, this world is crazy, and you don't know. Who cares how much money you got? Kobe Bryant was worth $2 billion. They were saying $2 billion. He didn't expect one day leaving to go to his daughter's basketball game, but that had to be it. Man, if we don't learn anything, man, run for your life. Live a life of faith. Live a life for Jesus. I mean, one-on-one personal relationship. Walk with him. Talk with him. Lead your family. Speaking to these young kids like my mother and father did to me. That's the inheritance that you need to leave. No matter how big a house or bank account or all this stuff you can leave them, that's okay. It can't buy you eternity. And I just want to just close. Trust Jesus and run the race that's marked for you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. The pastor of pain. Bam. All right. Hey.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is for Corey. You were a little boy?
At 7.
Because I remember him in high school, and we were rivals. I mean, they always beat us, but, I just heard the word of him, and he was he was just bigger than life, and we end up being very good friends, but I just remember being an opponent. I'm like, this is the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. So when he said he was a little boy, I'm like, really? When was that?
That's good.
At 7, I guess I
Man, well, gosh, what a encouraging morning, and we prayed over here beforehand that you guys would see Jesus and not so much these guys and football and all that kind of thing, but that Jesus would be honored and he'd be glorified, and so we just as we close today, and the theme of the day was pivotal moments, turning points in life, in faith, in careers. And so for many people today, you might be facing a dilemma, a challenge, a difficulty, and you're facing a turning point. And you go one way or the other. And the difficulty that you're facing is either going to derail you or it's going to draw you into Christ and your dependence on him. and to get through the difficult situations that you're facing, to make pivotal decisions, that it's taking the job, it's leaving the job, it's being the husband, the father that God's called you to be. And for some here today, maybe you're not walking with the Lord. Maybe you've walked away. Maybe you've kind of got caught up in life and caught up in some of the things that Corey was talking about. And so today's an opportunity to be a turning point for you, to say, I surrender, I want to follow Jesus, and I want to go his direction and stay on his path, and knowing that true satisfaction is found in him. And so that's our encouragement today. And we've got this ministry unpacking it so that we don't have to do this alone. We want to be sports fans following Jesus together. And so we hope that you'll connect with us. And we send out these devotionals to encourage each day. And I interview guys like this on the podcast, and they share encouragement through that as well. And so we'd love for you to get tapped in with that. But as we wrap things up, we did put just a response card in the middle of the tables. And if you can it's really quick. It's just like 1 or 2 checks. Your name, 1 or 2 checks. And just kind of fill out, hey, what did today look like for you? And just say, hey, today I want to follow Jesus. I'm already a follower of Jesus. And either way, just so that we know and can kind of point each other in the right direction based on those cards. And another reason for you to fill out the cards, we got a little raffle. So Ryan and if Reed maybe could help, there's a box that we'll put the cards in the envelope, and then we'll draw 2 names. One will be assigned, if Levon, you don't mind, sign that Clemson helmet. And then the other football is signed by all 3 of these guys. So we'll have a couple winners today. So I know we all love memorabilia and prizes, and so another reason to fill that out. So they're at the middle of the table, and there's some information about unpacking it as well. And then the other thing, too, we've got some awesome events coming up the rest of the year as well. And to kind of further this conversation and to continue what we're doing, on June 20th, it's Father's Day weekend. So June 20th is a Saturday. It's the Man Up Conference. And this one's taking place at Forest Hill, and it's for churches and men from all over the city of Charlotte to gather for a one-day conference. And I'll be interviewing another panel of guys that morning, but we'll also hear from Derwin Gray. We're going to hear from Josh Meadows and Colin Pinckney, who are doing awesome work in Charlotte. We're going to hear about the work that they're doing to impact the fatherless in this city. And so would love for you to be a part of that. Bill Montross is in the back. He's got a Man Up t-shirt on, and he can talk to you about that conference and get plugged in with that. We also have viewing parties. We got March Madness and Masters viewing parties. We've got a golf tournament, a flag football tournament, and a lot going on with Unpacking It Ministries. So thank you for being a part of this morning, and hopefully you'll be a part of kind of some of the other stuff that we're doing throughout the year. If you're not plugged into a church, would highly encourage you to go talk to Evan, the good-looking bald man up front. And so he's got the great South African accent. You can talk to him. But let me pray for you guys as you finish filling out the cards, and we'll do a raffle. And before I pray, let's give it up for these 3 guys for giving up a Saturday morning. Levon Kirkland, Clemson, Steelers, Andy Lee, Pittsburgh, Arizona Cardinals. He played 9 games with the Panthers. We didn't even talk about that. Next time. Corey Miller, South Carolina, and Giants. And I love that you're buddies with Darius Rucker. I was just watching him yesterday. So my little baby, 6 months old, she was crying. I had on the DVR an old concert from, I guess it was Darius Rucker, his country music. Popped that on. She was peaceful. She had her hands out like this. We were singing some Darius Rucker yesterday. It was awesome. But let me pray for us, and we'll wrap things up. Heavenly Father, we thank you for how good you are, how faithful you are, how you chase after us, Lord. And I pray for guys here today that are feeling that tug to allow today to be a turning point, to be a pivotal moment where they surrender to you, Lord. If there's an aspect of someone's life today that they've been holding on to, Lord, that they would release it to you, and that you would meet them right where they are, that you give them the grace that they need, the mercy that they need to experience, Lord, that they feel your love, they feel your power, your presence, Lord. Make yourself known to them, Lord. And we thank you for the words that you spoke through these guys today. Lord, thank you for Corey and Levon and Andy and the life that they're living, honoring you and pointing others toward you. Lord, thank you for the pain that we've all experienced in life, and that you've used that pain to reveal yourself to us and to strengthen us and to give us the power that we needed to get through it. And Lord, for those that are going through tough times right now, those that have lost a loved one, those that are facing divorce, those are dealing with work issues, Lord, that they would turn to you, they would trust you, that their faith would be in you. And Lord, that you would do an amazing work, Lord, that you're a miraculous God, you're a powerful God, and I pray for just your power to move in this room. Lord, I pray that we'd connect with each other through fellowship, that we'd not do life alone, that we would do it together, that we would be sports fans following Jesus together. And so, Lord, we do this all for you, to honor, to glorify you. Lord, we want to know you, we want to live for you, and we want others to know you as well. So, Lord, give us the strength each day to wake up with a passion for you. Lord, thank you for this church, for the opportunity to be here, for these wonderful men, for being a part of this morning, Lord. We thank you and praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
For more information about the show, our events, and other resources, visit unpackinit.com. That's unpackinit.com. We hope you are encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. To support our show and Unpacking It Ministries with a financial gift, visit unpackinit.com/donate. We look forward to unpacking sports, faith, and life with you again next week.